Most of us just throw our shoes in a bag or shove them in a plastic bag and hope for the best. But that doesn't really solve it. Plastic bags aren't contained, they tear, and they're not exactly something you want to reuse. And a lot of store-bought options have open mesh sections, so they don't actually keep anything in. So your shoes still end up touching everything: dirt, moisture, germs, whatever you just walked through, whether it's your suitcase or the backseat of your car after a muddy hike. So I made a shoe bag that actually contains the mess. Fully enclosed, wipeable inside, and designed to pack down when you don't need it. And I'll show you exactly how to make one. Hi, I'm Victoria, and I help you sew practical, stylish accessories that are ready for real life and real adventures. This bag is designed to actually handle real use. It has a fully enclosed, wipeable interior, so whatever gets on your shoes stays contained, and you can just wipe it out when you're done. The box shape gives you enough space for bulkier shoes like sneakers, while the longer zipper makes it easy to get them in and out without fighting the bag. It also rolls up into a compact shape and snaps in place so you can pack it away when you don't need it. And it's designed to fit your shoes properly, not oversized, no wasted space. This is a confident beginner to intermediate level project. It's mostly straightforward with a few slightly more complex steps along the way. If you work through it steadily, you can complete it in an afternoon. To make the process easier, I created a digital pattern that includes multiple shoe sizes so it actually fits what you need. The pattern includes all the pieces, measurements, and illustrated instructions, and it's designed to work alongside this tutorial so you can easily follow along as you go. If you'd like to make one, you can grab the pattern via the QR code on screen or the link in the description. Before we start sewing, let's go over the supplies for this project. For fabric, I'll give you a general estimate based on my shoe size so you'll have a starting point. You'll need about a half a yard of outer fabric and half a yard of lining fabric. I'm using vinyl fabric for the lining so the bag can be wiped out. For the binding, you'll need roughly a quarter yard of lining fabric, in my case vinyl, which will be cut into strips and combined to create about 90 inches of binding to finish the interior. If you're making a larger or smaller shoe size, you can adjust your fabric slightly. Just add or subtract a couple of inches per shoe size. You'll also need about half a yard of medium weight fusible interfacing for the outer fabric to help give the bag some structure. I'm using Heat & Bond's medium weight, and you'll need about half a yard. If you're using the individual packages at 20 inches by 1 yard, you'll need 2. For hardware, you'll need a 22-inch zipper and 1 set of plastic snaps, the kind that are installed with pliers. And of course, you'll need coordinating thread. First, press your fabric and cut out all of your pieces according to the pattern. If you're using vinyl, make sure to press it from the wrong side, the non-shiny side, since heat can damage the surface. This will help your pieces lay flat and cut more accurately. In addition to your fabric pieces, go ahead and cut out the interfacing pieces you'll need so everything is ready for the next step. Step 2 is to fuse the interfacing to the pieces that need extra stability. Apply interfacing to the outer fabric of the 2 main body panels, the front and the back, the outer fabric of the 2 zipper panel pieces, the bottom side panel, the handle, and the snap strip. Follow the instructions on your interfacing package. Place the adhesive side down, which in most cases is the shiny or dotted side, and press. Some interfacing instructions recommend using a pressing cloth, but if you find the interfacing isn't sticking, it's okay to press directly on the interfacing instead. Sometimes the pressing cloth just prevents enough heat from reaching the adhesive. Make sure each piece is fully fused and then trim away any interfacing that extends past the edges of the fabric. Next, we'll install the zipper on the zipper panels. This is done the same way as a standard lined zipper pouch. I do have a full tutorial on that if you want a deeper walkthrough, but I'll move through it quickly here. Start with one of your lining pieces right side up. This will be your vinyl. Place the zipper face up along the top edge, then place your outer fabric piece face down on the top so the right sides are together. Clip the layers in place. Since we're working with vinyl, you'll want to use clips instead of pins to avoid leaving holes. Sew along that edge using a zipper foot with a 3/8 inch seam allowance. This helps ensure everything lines up correctly with the rest of the bag later on. Then repeat the same process for the other side. Lining piece right side up, zipper aligned along the edge, and the outer fabric face down on top. Stitch it in place just like before. Once both sides are attached, press the fabric away from the zipper and top stitch along each side to keep everything flat. Just be sure not to press the vinyl. And if anything shifted slightly at the ends, go ahead and trim it so everything is nice and even. Next, sew an over edge stitch all the way around the perimeter of the zipper panel. This helps enclose the raw edges and keeps all the layers together, which makes the rest of the project much easier to work with. If your machine doesn't have an over edge stitch, you can use a zigzag stitch instead. Just make sure the outer edge of the stitch runs right along the edge of the fabric or slightly over it to fully catch those raw edges. Next, we'll start assembling the panels. Place your lining and outer pieces wrong sides together, and yes, I do mean wrong sides. It might feel backwards, but it makes the construction much easier for this design. Do this for the main front panel, the back panel, and the bottom panel pieces. Then sew around each set using an overedge stitch or a zigzag stitch just like before to enclose the raw edges and hold the layers together. Next, we'll attach the two side panels. Take your zipper panel and your bottom panel and place them right sides together. Pin or clip them together at each short end, then sew each seam using a 3/4 inch seam allowance. When you reach the zipper, go back over that section twice to reinforce it. Just take it slow as you go over the teeth. Since we're working with vinyl here, you'll want to use a Teflon foot, which is a non-stick presser foot that helps the fabric guide smoothly. If you don't have one, you can try placing a small piece of tape on the bottom of your presser foot to help it slide more easily. Now we'll enclose the raw edges with a flat felled seam. Trim the seam allowance on the zipper panel side down to about 1/4 inch and leave the other side as is. Then fold the wider seam allowance over the trimmed edge to enclose it. Pin it and then top stitch it down. As you stitch, be mindful of the metal zipper stop, especially when it's on the other side. Repeat this on the other side to finish both seams. Next, we'll prep the handle and the snap strip. Start by pressing both pieces using the double fold method. Fold each strip in half lengthwise and press. Open it back up. Then fold each long edge toward the center crease and press again. Then fold it in half once more and press. To enclose the raw ends, open the long fold of the handle and fold each short end inward about 1/2 inch. Press those creases. At one end, open just one side of that long fold, leaving the other side and the short end folded. Fold the top side back over towards the center, then tuck the remaining side into the little pocket you just created so all of the raw edges are enclosed. Repeat that on the other end and then do the same process with each end of the snap strip. Once both pieces are pressed, sew around the entire perimeter of each strip, both the handle and the snap strip, to enclose the raw edges and secure the folded ends. This also gives the pieces a clean, finished look and helps them hold their shape. Next, we'll attach the handle. Use your pattern to mark the handle placement using tracing paper and a tracing wheel on the top panel. Or, if you prefer, you can find the center and mark 1 inch in from each side. Position the handle over those marks and pin it in place. Then sew a 1 inch box with an X through the center at each end to secure it. Since the vinyl is on the underside here, the feed dogs can catch and tear it while you're sewing. To help prevent that, I would recommend using either a piece of tearaway stabilizer or a bit of tape under the stitching area to protect the vinyl as it feeds through. The stitching is also creating a bunch of micro tears because it's vinyl, so between that and the feed dogs, it can look like a shredded mess if you don't put some sort of barrier in between. Next, we'll attach the snap strap. Use your pattern to mark the placement on the bottom panel. Position the strap at that mark and sew it in place using a 1/2 inch box with an X through the center. Just like the previous step, since the vinyl is on the underside here, it can help to place a piece of tearaway stabilizer or tape under the stitching area to protect it as it feeds through. Now we'll install the snaps. Start by marking the first snap location about 1 inch down from the attached end of the strap. Install the cap and socket here with the cap facing towards the bag and the socket facing away from the bag. Next, mark the second snap location about 5.5 inches from the opposite end of the strap. Install the cap and stud here, but in the opposite direction so the snaps align when the strap wraps around the bag. The cap should now be on the outside. An easy way to check this is to fold the strap into position before before installing the snap. Quick note on placement. You'll notice the snaps are slightly set in from the edges. The fabric at the end is too thick for the snap post to fit through, but also attaching it to the bag this way instead of using a snap at the end reduces stress on the bag when the snap is pulled. It also creates a small pull tab at the other end, which I discovered makes the snaps much easier to open. Before we get to the main assembly, if you're enjoying this tutorial or finding it helpful, please hit the like button. It really helps this video reach more people. And if you're interested in more practical sewing projects like this, don't forget to subscribe. Now this is where it really starts to come together. We're going to attach the side panel to the back panel. To make things easier, go ahead and snap the strap closed so it's out of the way. Start by finding the center of your side panel, fold it in half, and mark the center point on both sides along both edges. Then find the center of your back panel by folding it in half and marking the center at the top and bottom. Now line those center points up, making sure the zipper section of the side panel is positioned at the top. Place the pieces right sides together so the outer fabrics are facing each other. Clip the top and bottom center points first, then work outward along each side until everything is clipped in place. And remember to use clips instead of pins here since we're working with vinyl. When you get to the corners, instead of folding the fabric like a traditional metered corner, simply pivot the side panel around the corner to follow the shape of the panel. It kind of looks like a backwards version of a metered corner. It may feel a little awkward, but you're just guiding the fabric around the edge rather than folding it in. Once everything is clipped in place, sew all the way around using a 1/4 inch seam allowance, pivoting at each corner. Next, we'll attach the second panel the same way. Before you start, make sure your zipper is at least partially open so you'll be able to turn the bag right side out later. This time, you'll be attaching the front panel to the side panel, which is already connected, so it will feel a little more three-dimensional. Just like before, find and match your center points at the top and bottom, making sure the outer fabrics are facing inward. Clip those center points first, then work outward along each side, pivoting around the corners as you go until everything is clipped in place. When you're ready to sew, it's usually easier to position the bag so the side panel is facing up under the machine and the panel you're attaching is underneath. This helps everything feed more smoothly. Then sew all the way around with a 1/4 inch seam allowance, pivoting at each corner. Next, we'll prepare the binding strips that will finish the inside seams. Cut 1.5 inch wide strips from your lining fabric, in my case vinyl, and join them to create about 90 inches total. This is a little more than we need, but I think it's good to have extra just in case. Then fold them using the same method as double fold bias tape. Just keep in mind these are not cut on the bias, and it's vinyl, so they won't stretch, which is exactly what we want here. Since we're working with vinyl, you won't be able to use a bias tape maker, so this will need to be done manually. And when pressing, use a pressing cloth to protect the vinyl from direct heat. Once the strips are pressed, leave them clipped for a few minutes. Vinyl holds its shape better when it's set in place like this. If you're unsure how to make bias tape, I do have a full tutorial on that, which I will link on screen and in the description. Now we'll use those strips to enclose the raw seams on the inside of the bag. Working one seam at a time, open up the strip and place it right sides together with one side of the lining seam aligning the raw edges. Pin it in place around the perimeter. Sew along the fold line of the strip and continue all the way around the seam. When you reach the starting point, overlap the ends slightly, sew the ends together, open that seam allowance, and then finish stitching the strip down to close the loop. Next, fold the strip over the seam and wrap it to the other side, returning it to its double fold shape, and stitch along the edge to secure it in place. You may want to switch to a heavy-duty needle here and use your hand wheel through thicker areas like the corners and zipper seam. This method takes a little more time, but it helps ensure both sides are fully caught and gives you a much cleaner finish than trying to stitch it in one pass. When trying to do it the sandwich way, I inevitably always ended up with sections where the second layer wasn't caught. Repeat this for both seams. Now that all the interior seams are enclosed, go ahead and turn the bag right side out. Take a moment to press the seams along the edges of the bag. This will help give it a clean, structured shape. Then we'll top stitch around the perimeter to finish it off. The easiest way to do this is to press each seam flat, then stitch close to the edge while keeping the seam aligned as you sew. When you sew, orient the bag with the front and back panels facing up. This helps keep the visible side looking clean and consistent. Since the bag is now fully assembled, you won't be able to top stitch each side separately like you normally would, so you'll need to press and hold the seam together as you sew, which does make this step fairly quick. A heavy-duty needle is highly recommended here, and you may need to use your hand wheel in thicker areas like the corners and near the zipper seam. If your machine starts to struggle, you can gently assist the fabric through with the presser foot slightly raised, just enough to help it move without forcing it. Instead of trying to sew the entire perimeter in one pass, I recommend working one side at a time, getting as close to each corner as you can. You don't need to sew directly through the corners. They're very thick and it's not necessary for the structure. Then repeat the process on the other side of the bag. To use it, just unzip the bag, slide your shoes inside, and zip it closed. You can carry it with the handle or just drop it straight into your luggage to keep everything else clean. When you're done, just take your shoes out and wipe or rinse the inside if needed. Once it's dry, fold the sides in, roll it up, and secure it with a snap strap to keep it compact for storage. You can even pack it in this compact form ahead of time so it's ready whenever you need it. If you'd like to make one yourself, you can grab the pattern via the QR code on screen or the link in the description. And if you're ready for another practical project, maybe even a bit of a challenge, you can check out this video right here. Bye!